Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about Hungarian true crime cases. My name is Tímea and today I'm going to tell you about a terrible, brutal murder of a man, and his killer gave herself up to the police. Now this case happened in 2020, so there isn't the information is all out, we just don't have a final sentence yet. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also stay tuned for the Hungarian word and the engagement question at the end of the video. Now let's get started. It happened on the 1st of April 2020 that the brutally murdered body of an innocent man was found in his home, tied to his own bed, and his killer gave herself up to the police. Most articles quote this case as BDSM gone wrong, but as we uncover the details, you will see that there is just so much more to this case than that. The victim was a 42-year-old man named K. Attila, and as we already know, he was found bound to his bed. His hands were tied to the headboard, and his killer was a woman named Katalin, a 39-year-old woman. But what happened and why? What was her motive? Well, you see, Katalin was a happily married woman. She got married in the year 2010 to her husband, and they had 3 beautiful children together. They lived in the town of Gödöllő, which is a truly beautiful place to live in the agglomeration of Budapest. It's a quiet town with lots of tourist attractions, the most important one being the palace of Prince Sisi. You may already know this historical figure from some of your history books. And Katalin lived in this beautiful town with her happy little family, and they lived a seemingly quiet life. Except that they didn't really. Because all of these things, all of these blessings in Katalin's life were just not enough for her. She was missing something, and I guess what she was missing was a big lie that she could live. Because she started a secret love affair that went on for almost as long as her entire marriage. Her secret lover was none other than Attila. At the age of 42, he lived on the property of his mom, though he had his own house that he built for himself. So he technically had his own property and he had his own privacy, though every single Sunday he went to church with his mom. He was known as a quiet, nice, kind, meager man, and he really wasn't known as a ladies' man at all. His neighbors said that they never saw him in the company of a woman, ever. So you can see that at the age of 42, he had a good life, but he was really missing, I guess, a sweetheart. But not only that, because Attila was Katalin's husband's colleague at the local pharmacy, as well as his best friend and the godfather of their 3 children. So he was no stranger to the family. And as I said before, this secret love affair was going on for so many years. And it wasn't until the January of 2020 when Katalin finally confessed to her husband about this love affair. Now I am not sure about the exact details of how this secret got out, if she just decided to suddenly come forward about it, or if she was threatened or cornered in some way, or the secret was revealed. But either way, after several years, Katalin's husband finally knew that he was being cheated on this whole time with his best friend. And still, the husband was such a good man. He was loyal and he wanted to reconcile. He completely forgave Katalin and he really didn't want their marriage to end because of this. But that was still not enough for Katalin, because after 2 months that her husband found out about the love affair, she still had not broken up. Attila, though, has really started to regret this series of terrible decisions, and he actually wanted to finally end this secret relationship with Katalin, because not only was his conscience eating him up, he actually found another potential love interest. You see, at the age of 42, he was unmarried, and he probably never had a girlfriend before Katalin at all. And when this new beautiful lady presented herself in his life, he wanted to ditch Katalin and get over with this stupid lie and this secret love affair and just have a normal life, a normal woman in his life, maybe get married, maybe have kids. But that wasn't the only thing that Attila wanted, because he also wanted to take a DNA test. You see, he had this inkling suspicion that maybe Katalin's children were actually his. So they took the paternity DNA test, and when the results came back, I don't know if he was shocked or if he counted on it, but 2 of the 3 children of Katalin were not the biological children of her husband, but of Attila. And I'm not sure if Katalin's husband knew that their children were not actually his, or if he was told about this then, or he learned about it later. So it happened on the 31st of March that Katalin went over and spent one last night with Attila together in his home. And she just left their family home at night, said goodbye to her husband and her children, saying, "I'm gonna come back home soon," and just went off and spent the night with Attila one last time. And this time, her husband just knew about it. The next morning, when they woke up, so on the 1st of April, they had sex for sure. And either during the sex or after the sex, I'm not sure, but Attila was tied to the bed. His hands were tied to the headboard with spanifer. And again, either during or after the intercourse, they had an argument about Attila wanting to break up and leave Katalin for another woman. And Katalin was just a jealous bitch. She could not bear the thought of losing her secret boyfriend to another woman, while this whole time she was the one cheating on her husband. So she just took out these 2 knives, and one was a 34 centimeter long blade, the other one was almost 17 centimeter long. And she just started stabbing Attila everywhere that she could reach while sitting on top of him. She stabbed him in the neck, in the chest, the shoulders, the abdomen, over 50 times. Any of those stab wounds could have been fatal. And Attila bled out and died almost instantly. And this is why most of the articles deemed it as BDSM gone wrong, because not a lot of people keep spanifer next to their beds. I mean, unless they use it for certain kinks. And about the knives, it is undetermined whether it was a premeditated murder and she brought those knives specifically to murder him, or if those were placed next to the bed because they also utilized that as some kind of like gadget during their intercourses. And then after the murder, Katalin just went home, to her family home, to her husband and her 3 children, as if nothing happened. Though later that day, she walked back to the scene and tried to clean up the evidence. She tried to wipe up the blood and then cover the body somehow, but she saw that this wasn't really going to work. So she gave a phone call to her unsuspecting husband and asked him to give her a ride back home by car. And I don't think that he knew what happened just yet. After that, she went back to the scene one more time. She went there on foot and she tried to clean up the scene again, and after a few minutes of trying, she gave up. And about 15 minutes before 9 p.m. that same night, she called the police and gave herself up. So obviously the police came to the scene and the investigation started. And when she was taken in for questioning, she gave her full confession. And there was nothing left, really, for the police to unearth, because all of the evidence and the confession were laid out to them. And because all of this took place in March 2020, so just the beginning of the pandemic, there was a judicial break. And as of right now, I still don't know what stage her trial is at. I do know that the prosecution has pressed charges and they requested the life sentence, but other than that, nothing else is known. We don't know what her final sentence is going to be, but knowing the Hungarian judicial system, I expect it to be probably 15 to 20 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after like 10 or 12 years. That is a tendency in the videos that I have covered on my channel. Murderers here get away with practically just a slap on the wrist and that's it. I would be very surprised if she actually gets a life sentence. They almost never get it. So that is the end of the case. In the end, Attila died as technically an innocent man. I mean, of course he made terrible mistakes. Like he went behind his best friend's back and fucked his wife and had 2 children from this woman that the poor husband thought were his own. But in the end, he was the one who wanted to end things. He was the one who finally came to his senses and realized that what they were doing was wrong. And he, I guess, just wanted to start over and have a new girlfriend and just try to get his life back on track as it was supposed to be. So whatever his mistakes of being a side dick and a terrible best friend and a really bad godfather, I really don't think that he got a fair punishment. I don't think that getting brutally murdered when you are tied to a bed, completely defenseless, without any dignity, is the right punishment here. And the poor husband, he just lost his best friend and also lost his wife. Obviously, they were not gonna stay together after this. And the children, they are the ultimate victims here because they had nothing to do with this. They just lost their godfather, who turns out to be their biological father. They lost their mom to prison. And probably their dad is forever traumatized as well. I mean, everybody was a victim here, except for Katalin. Katalin was this cunning, jealous bitch who was a narcissist. She wanted everything to be about her. So that is the end of this case. As soon as there is an update in the sentencing and in the trial, I'm gonna let you guys know. But now it's time for today's Hungarian word of the day. And it's going to be for secret. In Hungarian, it's titok. Titok. Not TikTok, not Tic-Tac, titok. And today's engagement question is going to be a controversial one, but I want you guys to know that this comment section is open to your honest opinions as long as you are respectful and kind to everybody. Do you believe that we should bring back the death penalty? Do you think it's a no at all, or do you think it's 100% yes? Are you somewhere in the middle? I'm always in the middle. I really never have extremist opinions, but I think there are certain cases where the death penalty should at least be considered. But there are those people who aren't even criminally insane. They don't even come from like a bad childhood or bad life. They are just genuinely evil people, torturers, pedophiles, people like that. I mean, there are certain cases where I can imagine giving the death penalty, but that is just my opinion and don't come for me if you disagree. But what is your opinion? Let us know everything down in the comment section, as well as what you thought about the case in general. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell, because maybe you don't see that I'm posting videos like every week. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you next time. Bye!